Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, you spend how much on paper? Always try the most difficult fix first, leaving everything to your future you. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. You spend how much on paper? If you worked in a law firm before the 2010s, you can skip this next 3 paragraphs, or don't if your blood needs a little reminiscence boiling. For the rest of you, let me explain paper. If you've not worked there, you might think of law firms as floating in money from the ridiculous fees they charge for the most minor of tasks like a 2-second phone call, and that they probably waste half of it. You're right. When it comes to printing, law firms are nuts. They still are, but before the early 2010s they were on an even higher level. I stood still in a spot in a law firm's office in 2002-ish, and I could reach out and touch 4 HP 4000 printers, all with 2 additional trays, and the manual feed tray in use. 5 types of stationery. And from that same spot there was the big floor-standing HP 8000 just 6 feet away. That was for the big prints, and it just had reams, literally, of plain paper in it. The reason for all this? Nothing and everything. Law firms have to print the first page of the client copy on headed paper, all subsequent pages on continuation paper, which is like headed, but usually a smaller logo and address block pushed up to a thin header of the page. File copies are on plain white paper with a file copy watermark printed diagonally over it, or in the header, or somewhere else, and the plain paper might be the same plain for normal printing, or the lawyers might have argued they want heavier stock as they're dealing with it every day, and they're the ones that bring in the damn money, or maybe it's green paper because reasons. Then you'll have a different watermark for a copy in the situation where the original was lost, on plain paper, or headed in continuation, or blue, why the hell not? Then there's faxes, yes. Yes. In 2010? Yes. But not now, right? Wrong. Still faxes, compliment slips, and a bunch of other ways of printing that I've therapeutically removed from my memory. How can this ever work? I hear you scream. In short, really complicated printing code, often word macros, massive print dialogues, and an array of print like this buttons. If you've ever wondered why IT is making a big deal about the amazing deal you can get on competitor Corp printers, and why they're so attached to their printer brand, Tata. With all of these requirements on printing, there's inevitable waste. People load the wrong tray, or print to the wrong tray. There's a lot of thrown away paper, and therefore there's a market for saving printing costs. Enter MyCorp with our amazing software to make printing more accurate, saving time and frustration. I jest, but it really was good. The saving had to be played down to make it believable. As you can imagine, every firm is different, so we'd have to have a couple of hours at the client with questions and calculators to work out how much we thought the product would cost and save. We did so for one company who had the most ridiculous printing requirement I ever saw. They needed 2 copies of a file copy, one for the partner's files and one for the account file. The partner's one was to be printed on plain white paper. The account's file was to be printed on green paper. To solve this, they had botched together some code to print page 1 twice, page 2 twice, page 3 twice, etc., to a specific tray. That tray, ladies and gentlemen, was filled with interleaved white and green paper, which they bought in reams already interleaved at least double the price of the white and green paper within if they'd been separate. What's even better is that every now and then someone would accidentally print an email to that tray. 3 pages in the bin. And now the top page is green. So when someone prints their document, the green one is on top, so they throw that away. I could never understand that part. They separate them manually afterwards because they hate their staff, I guess, so what does it matter? To get around this problem, after an incorrect print they'd open the tray and bin another sheet so the top one was while again. So we went over it all and we calculated that our £50k software would save them £330k every year. And £300k of that was the cost and waste cost associated with this green paper. Bristling with pride and thinking about the wonderful case study this could make for our product, we presented it to them, and it got rejected. I'm sorry. What? They said no? We could not understand it at all. We had suggested a watermark instead of the green paper, and this was a point they raised. Sure that we could still make enormous savings and bag ourselves a client, we redid the numbers with a tray of regular green paper. It's ridiculous, but if they have to have green paper, it will still save a ton of money getting reams of just green paper. The savings were down to about £180k. This is annual savings for a one-off cost, with a small annual fee. Still they said no. A few months later, after another site visit, and most definitely in the pub, my boss was told that one of the partner's sons happens to run a printing company that, wouldn't you know it, supplies the firm's paper. Always try the most difficult fix first. In my last company I worked as an electrician, but my colleagues and I did network infrastructure as well, aside from managing the switches, which surprisingly was a lot of work, because somehow there was always some office remodeling going on. Also, we had a million different sites, but this one was different. It was nearly a whole village, around 15 buildings, 9 of them belonging to us, which formed a children's home, so everything was really spaced out. So, we remodeled half of the village over the span of a year, and during that one of the offices moved across half the village. After settling in, the user complained about problems with the internet connection, which IT immediately forwarded to us. Considering the connection, nothing too surprising, it was an old phone line running across the village back to the main building, which some madmen had spliced to Cat5e equipment before we arrived. Luckily, we had some fancy signal converters for Ethernet over phone from another site laying around, so we installed these and sent the ticket back to IT. A month later we had a new complaint, same user, same issue, and after verifying with IT that they had looked into it, we estimated that the connection between the main building and the offshot office just had to be too long, around 70 m, or might be interfered somewhere, and pulled a new Cat7 cable. The old installation was inside a spacious pipe, so after a long day of driving, did I mention the 1-hour drive to and from the site, praying and pulling, we had a shiny new cable, swapped all patch cables, and one unmanaged switch for good measure, and went home. 2 months later IT asked, when we will fix the issue. I happily told them what we did, and after another week, they confirmed that it didn't work as intended. Q. A day of desperation and hard decisions. We had tested the connection, and it seemed good to us, and the user reported sporadic connectivity, so we reconsidered the site, and it hit us like bricks. There was a transformer station only a few meters from our cable. Could it be that these madmen had thrown the pipe just in the same trench as the high-voltage lines, and the crosstalk just limited the connection severely? Short jump forward, we installed fiber, had a special company come out to splice the lines, and told IT that we were done with it. A few weeks later, almost half a year after this madness started, I met the user on occasion, and she complained about the not working connection, definitely not in an unpleasant way, just like some utterly hopeless who had come to terms with it. By chance I had my laptop with me, highly unusual. I only used it to configure our entrance system on a different site, so I decided to give it another crack and start tracing down the issue, simply by plugging the laptop into every port I could find along the way. First port, her office, everything works fine. I was baffled, switched back to user's PC, and bam, connection gone. Her network card was faulty. These F***ers in IT hadn't bothered to check her network card in half a year. Conclusion: user still offers me cookies every time we meet, and I afterwards didn't talk to IT for about 4 months, and later only when they promised me. They actually checked their end first. Leaving everything to your future you. I work as support for a company that offers multiple computing services. One of them allows you to host websites at low cost. It also offers clients to interact other services via code. Works with Python, PHP, Java, etc. I received a ticket back in 2019 where a customer wanted to include search by voice for their web store. Quick overview of their flow. An user clicks on the microphone icon on their website and say what they are looking for. A request to our services was made via code using the audio input. Our services selected keywords that matched the best with the customer's catalog. The website would return all the resultant items. To make sure this feature was available for all users, they wanted to call our services directly from the front-end user interface and explicitly included. We want to bypass any back-end authentication. Everything should be on the front end. I found a solution which included JSON tokens and they showed happy. Everything cool so far. The ticket was closed and I didn't hear of them for a while until last week in May 2021. We received a ticket from the same customer. They were very worried because they ran a security audit and found some risky implementations. I jumped to a video call with them and asked them to share their screen with me. Their words during the call. If you click on Inspect Website, you can see the URLs asterisk and private keys. Can you confirm the risk? Asterisk in the company I work, URLs to our services include customers' IDs and are considered as sensitive identifiable information. Yes, I confirmed that there was sensitive information publicly available and mentioned that these kinds of implementation are always risky. If some idle one gets their keys and URLs, they could exploit them, causing undesired charges to their bank account. They were looking for an option to hide this information from their HTML and JS files. I left them waiting and did a quick research. My efforts were useless, couldn't find a single thing to achieve what they wanted to do. After some minutes I told them, "Thanks for waiting. It seems that your requirements cannot be done the way you would like to, but I can think of the following. Make sure to restrict those keys to only the services they are meant to be used. This could make sure that even when someone exploits the credentials, the costs won't suddenly spike for all services. Create a bank alert within our service. If the system detects charges above a given threshold, you will receive an email and can take immediate action. Please consider moving these calls to the backend. I'm sending you our docs where this implementation can be done." They said that this could take several iterations as they have just deployed to production, but I reinforced that during the rework the first two steps could help them the best to keep control in their bank charges. They agreed with the workarounds and started to plan their next deployment. The call ended after that. The ticket has been closed for now, and I hope I don't have to worry about any possible problem with their future backend implementations during 2023.